Kevin Rose. Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you. So, as John said, I was originally going to come and talk to you about recommendation engines and some cool stuff that we're doing at Digg, but I did a post recently based on a blog article that I read by Paul Graham entitled, "Why to Start a Startup in a Bad Economy?" And really this got me thinking about timing and about Digg and when we launched and what the environment was like back then. And I started thinking about kind of the company that we're in back here, 4 years ago. And when we launched, there was Flickr and Facebook and Delicious, Wikipedia, MySpace. We were in very good company, but we all had one thing in common, and that's that we didn't launch during Web 2.0. This was, some of these companies are more than 4 years old now, and it was kind of a tough time to get funding for consumer internet plays. And I remember Jason Calacanis came up to me and said, "You're kind of one of those Web 2.0 websites." And I remember just thinking, like, does he mean I need to upgrade my servers or something? Like, I had no idea what he was talking about. But this downtime when there wasn't a whole lot of competition brought a few advantages for us. And one is that we had that first mover advantage and that we didn't have a whole lot of competitors for the first 6 or 8 months, which was great because we got Digg out the door. We had people that were coming to the site and using the product, and really there were no clones, no other competition. And this also led into things like great press coverage because we weren't fragmented with like 500 other new startups that were launching. And TechCrunch wasn't churning out 20, 30 new startups per day. But one of the most important things is I think that we had a very focused group of early adopters that used our product. And their time wasn't being split with other new startups. I have firsthand experience with this with launching things like Pounce and others like during the middle of Web 2.0, and that's that it's a very difficult time to launch new companies when there's a lot of other things going on because, I don't know, we've learned from some of the focus groups that we've done at Digg and elsewhere that there was a lot of kind of social graph fatigue, and that people would come to use your product, and you sign up for one the first time, you hear about something great on TechCrunch, you go sign up, you invite all your friends, and then you hear about something else, and you may do that again, and then you do it a third time. By the time you do it 3 times, you're just, you're done, and your friends don't want to receive these invites anymore. So it was very difficult from those 3 standpoints, and it was hard to get press, and there's just so much going on. So we know in the next 12 or 18 months, there's going to be a little bit of a downturn. And sadly, a lot of these companies are going to disappear, and there's not going to be a whole lot of investing in consumer internet, or at least sites with an advertising model. And it's going to be another one of these kind of little valleys where I believe personally that it's going to be a great time to start something new. So I also want to take a couple minutes and just talk about some of the things that we did very early on and how we were able to kind of be very scrappy and launch Digg with next to nothing. And I think this, if there's any would-be entrepreneurs or someone that's launching something new or is not able to get additional rounds of funding, this will be relevant to you. So first of all, I kept my day job. When Digg launched 4 months in, I had a full-time job. This is something that I was working on nights and weekends. And it was, of course, being just a project where I didn't have funding. I didn't want to invest just a ton of my savings when I didn't know whether or not the project was going to work. So with just a few $1,000s, I had to get a little scrappy, and that meant I couldn't really hire a full-time developer in the United States. I mean, developers in the US were very expensive. So I went to Elance, and I found some developers. There was one I was looking at in India and also another one in Nova Scotia that I ended up hiring. And it was about 1/3 of what I would have paid for someone here in the United States. So it was a way for me to get the help that I needed at a very low cost. Now, we did run into problems later down the line with, the developers that we were hiring weren't really these ones that had seen kind of scalability issues and things like that. So when it came time to add multiple servers and to grow from there, you absolutely need talent that has been there before and been down that road. So it only works up to a certain point, but it's great to just get those concepts out there and to test whether or not your product's going to work. The other thing I did is, I really didn't have a PR organization. So I'm not a huge fan of PR. Of course, as we've grown, we've needed that. But in the early days, for the first 6 months, there was no PR. I was the PR for the company. And I think that, what better person to be in charge of your PR and be the front man for your company than the founder. And it really is, I believe that you can do so much there. And so many founders, I think that when I go to these new startups and I start checking out some of these products, they're hidden like 4 or 5 pages deep on this About Me page. And you really should be out there. Sorry, I have a really bad cold. In front of your product, really talking about what you've created and be the voice for your product. And there's so many different ways that you can do that. I highly recommend watching the videos by Gary Vaynerchuk. He talks about personal brand, and he's dead on. And one of the ways that I believe really helped us out in the early days was starting a podcast. And we started Digg Nation, and it was something that we launched alongside with the iTunes Music Store. And believe it or not, you launch any new podcast, you get some good graphic art for your podcast, and you invest a little bit of time understanding how to get the audio correct, and hopefully you have something interesting to say. Just by the fact of being added to that directory and listed by a new podcast, you're going to get 20,000, 30,000 people checking out your new podcast. Whether they subscribe or they come back is another thing, but the point is that here is a very cheap way for you to go out there and market your company and also make yourself known in the industry and get out there and show who you are. So that's something I think is also very important. And then a lot of these blogs that I see that companies are doing are very much focused on their product, as I guess they should be. But there's a lot more that you can do by talking about just your competitors and other things that are going on in the industry. Because if you really broaden out outside of just your company, there's a better chance of your blog posts getting bookmarked and getting submitted to Digg and making the front page, and you'll get more traction that way. So that was another thing that I did that I really thought pumped up our site and actually got more people in using it. So also, obviously, went very cheap when it came to servers and hardware that we were buying for our projects. A great example is Pounce. When we launched Pounce now, it has 5 or 6 servers. They're 100% rented, kind of $99 a month, like cheap as you can get. We didn't have to go out and buy crazy hardware. Also, we use services like S3 for all of our data transfer. We do terabytes a month in data transfer. Never had any issues whatsoever. Obviously, a lot cheaper way to do it by going that route. So one last thing is that I really believe that kind of email communication is dead, and that I really think that Twitter's helped me out a lot in getting out new projects and things that we're launching. And it's more of a real-time communication. So every time I do any video that I post online, whether you're doing a podcast or you're doing a video for your blog or whatever it may be, always start it off by saying like, hey, here's my Twitter account. If you enjoy this, follow me, and I'll give you more updates. And then you'll get more followers that way, and it's a way to have like a real-time communication with these people. And as you launch new features and new projects, you have an instant group and base of users that you can push them onto your project. So those are just a few ideas and some of the things that we did very early on with Digg. But just kind of summing up, I really believe that kind of this, I don't know, on my blog I called it Web 2.5, but this down period here before what eventually becomes 3.0, and I know these are all just buzzwords, whatever, but the point is that consumer internet, funding for consumer internet companies is going away, and at least in the short term, and there's going to be a lot of opportunity there for everyone. So thank you very much, and if you have any other questions, please find me. I'll be around. Thanks.